All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to another week in the Strategic Reserve 5 Crypto Cast. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a great week. Don't believe all the doom and gloom. That's the lesson we've gotten for the last 2 weeks with all these liquidations that have been going on in the cryptoverse across the board with institutional money, ETFs, spot ETFs, massive liquidations. Do not let all that FUD deter you from reality. In terms of what's going on here, okay? Because there's still trades to be had, right? We got trades every day. You can be in this market 24 hours, 7 days a week, unlike the traditional stock market. But we are here in the nation's capital, the DMV, obviously, still furlough going on. Lots of people trading, new people trading. Big shout out. Quite a few new people trading. So that's pretty awesome. Because they're home and they're on furlough and they're looking at all this and they're looking at their situation and they're facing that reality that a lot of us faced 5 years ago, or at least really right before COVID and coming out of COVID was like, man, you have to take ownership of this yourself in terms of trying to chart a path, a little bit percentage in terms of understanding crypto and have that be a small portion of your overall financial outlook, right? 5 years ago, you could ignore it. I believe that. I'm honestly, I know people would laugh all the time and people would poke fun at me, be like, you're crazy, man. That crypto stuff's crazy. It's crazy. Now, 5 years later, people are coming on board. People understand the reality that this is now, it's not 2015 and 17 and 19. The market is very different. The market is certainly more mature. I'm not saying it's completely matured, but it's definitely more mature. You now have banks, institutions, and now you have governments involved. And when those folks get involved, you've got your legitimacy. You're hearing less and less noise about criminality and how criminals are the only ones using the blockchain and criminals are the only ones who use crypto. That was all the fear and FUD that they put out into the market to keep you locked into your bank accounts, to keep you locked in at traditional finance. That's what they did. That was their own self-generated with the evil empire, networks like Bloomberg, okay, put that out there for years. Now you're seeing the whole narrative completely change on its head, right? Because now the people who back all these financial in New York that are banking all these institutions and these investment banks and these ETFs that are being released and these big, huge mutual fund companies are now getting into the crypto space, okay? And they have been for years, but they are now really getting in. And so you've got that situation where they can't FUD it anymore. Like they've got to 2 years from now, crypto could be leading. 2 to 3 years from now, crypto could be leading the news in the morning on Bloomberg Live, as opposed to taking a back seat like it's been for years. It's all about the Mag 7, right? It's all about AI and Mag 7 every morning. How many of us are tired of hearing about NVIDIA? Tired of hearing about Alphabet? Tired of hearing about those companies? That's all they talk about when they're not talking about FUDing on Trump and his policies and his tariffs. That's it. All they talk about is the Mag 7. They don't. And so you would think that the entire market, which it is, 40% of the S&P 500 is Mag 7. And so if something, they can't afford for Mag 7 to have a 30% correction, right? Like they don't and haven't cared if Bitcoin crypto has a 30% correction. And when it does, they act shocked like, oh my God. It's like, if you've been around like us, for 10 years now, over 10 years now, these corrections are not shocks to us. This is what crypto is used to 10%, 12% declines in Bitcoin, right? They're not used to a 10% sell-off in NVIDIA or a 10% sell-off in Apple is like massive shock to their system because they have everything invested in that. It's all in one basket. 40% of that is all the Mag 7, okay? And so when we see it, when they play it, they FUD it more. So you want to trade that behavior. And that's what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks, really, since these liquidations hit. Second Friday, since the major liquidation dump of about $19 billion in liquidations, right? Okay. we're still trading, right? And you got to have that mentality. Let's take a look at where the market is today. Obviously, Aave, look at this. We are in the green, folks. It's Friday heading into the weekend, and we are in the green. All right. Bitcoin has kind of led the way in the last 24 to 48 hours. But let's take a look at where we're at. And I'm just going to, some of these are going to be obviously non-strategic 5, but I like to throw it out there because I get a lot of messages about people like, you're not talking about this, you're not talking about that. Because we want to concentrate on now the reality that's coming is a crypto reserve 5. Those five cryptocurrencies that are going to be part of a reserve currency, okay? Kind of fundamentally. That's going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum leading the way, followed by XRP, okay, Solana, and Cardano. Okay, those are your 5 that we are continuing to trade over and over. You can get into that altcoin or shitcoin stuff all you want and get wrecked, okay? Because there's really nothing other than euphoria and then, getting wrecked. Those are the two extremes. There are some projects coming up, but again, it's like, do you want to own the network, right? Or do you want to own the project, right? And so you got to figure that out. We're going to trade the networks. We're going to trade the platforms. We're going to trade the Ethereum network, the Solana network, the things that are getting built on, the infrastructure of the blockchain. That's where it's at. Okay. There's thousands of altcoins, and everybody wants to talk about when's altcoin season coming? When's altcoin season? I don't care. It could never come again. Don't care. It could, everyone's talking about because everybody wants to chase the quick buck. Okay. Everybody wants to shake the 100x. And that's what they're playing to in the market. A lot of people on YouTube, they're playing to those people who want it to be gambling, who want it to be Vegas, who want the 5 altcoins to 1 million, and they never get to 1 million. Okay. It's the same story. It's like the same AI type narrative across the entire YouTube platform, right? Or Twitter, especially, or X. It's 5 altcoins to 1 million, and then they never get to 1 million, and then they keep doing it, and they keep doing it. It's the same kind of front of style of video, and then you get in there and you get wrecked. I hear about it all the time. Don't mess with it, okay? Stick with Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana and XRP and even Cardano, right? Stick with those, especially if you're new. You certainly can have a little bit of your portfolio allocated to the high risk, hyper risk, altcoin projects, that are coming out. Not going to tell you not, but in terms of leverage trading, you want to trade where the institutions are trading, in my opinion. And that's the 5, because that's where you're going to see the moves. That's where you're going to see, those moves in the market that you can play, using low leverage 5x, 10x is what my recommendation is. But we got it this week. We had it this week where some of you guys are in that 25x zone and crushed it, working the same plan and strategy we have for 2 weeks. It hasn't changed. Why hasn't it changed? It hasn't changed because Bitcoin hasn't changed. Bitcoin has been in a continuation cycle now of trading on the 4-hour, and for the last 2 weeks, it's the same zone. Okay, it's the same zone, and that's great. I love zones. I love trading the zones, trading off of support, trading down from resistance, and we're right there again, guys. We're right there again on this Friday morning. Bitcoin is sitting at 111,000. It can't break through 112,000. It keeps trying and keeps trying and keeps trying. It's like the little engine that could. And while everybody on YouTube is fudding, oh, we're going back to 67,000. Oh, we're going back to 92,000. I'm focused on right now, the next 5 days. That's what this channel is. It's not just about the Crypto Reserve 5. It's about trading on Bybit for 5 days, because you can keep your trade open for 5 days. You can join that exchange right there by hitting that Bybit Trading Exchange QR code, or I'll put a link in the description as well. You can just go on there and learn. You can start with 5 USDT, okay? Very minimum barrier of entry. If you just want to come on, and I've had people, they're like, skeptical, man, but I decided to put $25 on Bybit, and they turned that $25 into 500. And then they turn that 500 into 1,000. And then they turn that 1,000 into 5,000. And then they turn that 5,000 into 10,000. That's over time, that's what you do, because it's just a small portion. Okay, again, not financial advice. You're not your financial advisor. Okay, but it should never be your rent money, your mortgage, your car payment, your tuition money, insurance. It should never be that. Okay, if it is that, you're in the wrong place. Okay, I just say that when I talk to people who call me, want me to mentor them, want me to talk to them, want me to explain them through, walk them through the trades, walk them through that. So one of the first things I talk about, what are we talking about here? Like, what's your time expectation? What's your, this should be 10% or less of your overall portfolio. I know people that are in 100% and that's it. They don't own anything else except for crypto. And that's fine, but that's also a lot more risk. Okay. For sure. You certainly want to be in the stock market. You certainly want to have a 401k. You certainly want to have mutual funds, right? But if you're dabbling, as opposed to if you're a guy who plays FanDuel, or you're a guy who likes to trade now, every time you watch a football game, an NFL game, there's freaking trading. They're trying to get you to freaking gamble. If you're that kind of person and you're putting $5, $10, $25 in prop bets for the NFL, you could do the same thing on 5-bit. Okay, if you think Bitcoin's going to go higher over the next 5 days, buy up, right? Buy your prop. It's a prop bet. You're betting on Bitcoin going up over the next 5 days. If you think it's going to go lower, buy a prop bet. It's the same kind of mentality, right? And if you have that mentality, right, 5 days short term, one game mentality, right? 5 days is your game. This is how you can continue to and not worry about the black swan events, not worry about where Bitcoin's going to be at the end of the year. Don't care. I don't care. I'm interested, right? Because you've got long Bitcoin. You're amassing your Bitcoin, right? You're taking profits from this exchange and you're buying Bitcoin or Ethereum long. Those are my recommendations for me. That's what I do. Again, not financial advice for you. But if you earn in your trade $150 or $200, you're plus $150, $200 in your trade. And you know what? You can take your profit from the trade and then buy Ethereum or Bitcoin on whatever exchange you use. Coinbase, for example. Crack, wherever. You can move it to buy it long and then move it to your cold wallet. Like Tangent, wherever you want to, Ledger, whatever it is you want to use, you move it to that wallet and you hold it. Okay. And you continue to trade again. So that's how I kind of tell people on 5-bit is like, put some money in there. And that's your trade money. Take your money off the exchange, your profits off the exchange, and do whatever you want to do with it. Okay. But then keep that seed money still on your exchange so you could trade, because you're going to be trading daily or every other day. Remember, you can keep your trades 5 days. So you could do one trade a week, like that kind of deal. Simple trade like that. I have people that trade 1x. Like, okay, just 1x. Okay. I mean, that's the least riskiest leverage trade there is 1x. All right. So let's take a look at where we're at today. Abe up 3%. Cardano up 1.66%. Algorand, Algo, actually it was up higher. Now it's down. It's up 0.66. Okay. Avalanche 0.76. Axie Infinity 2.69%. Let's look at the big ones here. Big movers. Bitcoin Cash 2.8%. Bitcoin Cash is up. I can tell you that Bitcoin's up, right? 1.28. See that? Okay, look at that. Talk about that a lot on Substack, okay? Correlated assets and correlated assets in crypto are huge. Bitcoin has forks like Bitcoin Cash, okay? Well, Bitcoin Cash is up 2.78%. Bitcoin's up 1.3%. Remember, Bitcoin Cash is $500. Bitcoin is $111,000. But you can work. You can get greater price movement and greater value and a greater trade P&L percentage off of trading Bitcoin Cash than Bitcoin. If you think Bitcoin is going to go up, okay? If you have the ability to do a chart layer over layer, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, they are highly correlated. So if Bitcoin goes up, so is Bitcoin Cash going up. So if you think that Bitcoin Cash is going to run up to 115,000, Bitcoin Cash is going to cross $500 or probably go to 510 or 512. And so if you do a buy up trade at 498 and it goes to 510, that is going to be a bigger P&L percentage win on that trade than if you put Bitcoin at 110 and it went to 115, because it's all about the underlying value of what the asset costs, right? In terms of your entry level. So just keep that in mind. I mean, there are plenty of little tricks and things that you can use to kind of squeeze out some extra percentages on your P&Ls without actually ever trading Bitcoin. You could just trade the forks, okay? But you're using what's going to happen in Bitcoin, but you're actually trading Bitcoin Cash. And that's BCH for those of you who are not familiar with that, if you're new to the channel and you're watching today. Okay, Compound up 2%, Polkadot 2%, 2.5%, sorry. Ethereum 2%, Flare 2.3%. Chainlink, another one, 2.1%. Litecoin, 2.43%. And so you're kind of getting the idea here. We don't see very many down, although we do have, let's see what that. A lot of the smaller projects. Solana's basically break even at 191. Ripple is up 3.44%. How about that trade, guys? How about that trade? Last video we talked about XRP to get it with a 245. When you said it was going to get to 245, right? It's now at 248.62. So we're out of that trade now because it's been more than 5 days, but that trade delivered 47 and 58%. You can check out on Substack. I'll put that link in the description as well. The returns on that call, but XRP is now at 248. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Obviously, that's the big boy in the room. Bitcoin's trading at 55 RSI right now on the 4 hour. This 4 hour stick just turned red for Bitcoin at 110,497. So where are we at, guys? This is the same trade we were in the last video. It's the same exact setup. Okay. If you missed the entry point, okay, around 108 or 109,000, all right, to buy up and to test 112, okay, to test the 111,000 to 112,000 zone, okay, that's what we're doing. Trade. And you also got to remember that you also can do the reverse of everything, you know. So when you're at that, when you're testing that that level, and failing, you want to buy your sell down, okay? And so because it failed to break resistance, so it's going to fall back down a little bit. It may fall all the way back down to support. 18.43%. So you're looking at that right now. That trade with an entry of a trade within the last 48 hours of 108,500 is now sitting at 18.43%. So 18% in 2 days. Okay, and that's based on a 10%. By the way, that's based on the current trading of at 110,500. Okay, so that $2,000 move up to the upside in Bitcoin delivered 18% at 10x. Now, obviously, if you were at 5x, it would be half of that. If you were at 25x, it would be a lot more than that. It'd probably be like in the 35 or 40% range. Okay. And so you're sitting in that trade now heading into the weekend. Now, hey, I didn't get in that trade. I missed it. Where am I at? Well, you want to look at where we are. And we've got a lot of there's a lot of people at that 109,000, okay, level. So we fall back down to that $109,000 level in trading today. You could probably eke out another entry to buy up, okay? Because one or two things are going to happen, okay, this weekend. We are either going to break 112 or we are going to test 108, okay? That's it. That's what's going to happen. So while everyone else is talking about doom and gloom, I'm just worried. I just care about 105,000. Okay. And so why I say that is if you look at your daily in Bitcoin, and you can see the trades going on right now. You can see that we've gone red there on that 4 hour, and you can see it's at right there on your screen. 110,539 is now the price. But when you look at that daily, we hit. Forget about the wicks. The base of that red candle is on 1017 a week ago. Okay. A week ago, we hit 105. Okay. To me, that's my high water mark in the next 5 days. Okay, because remember, we're always looking at this in terms of 5 days. We're looking at moves within 5 days. Not 60 days, 90 days, not any of that crap. Okay, we're looking at like boom, and we're leading up to the big day that could change everything. Okay, in this market, right? Expect buyers to come back in leading to the October 28th and 29th next week. Okay, we are at the end of October. We have another FOMC meeting coming up next week. Expect to see Bitcoin obviously do one of two things. One, break 112 or test 105. If people come into the market and people allocate their ETFs, these institutions allocate billions of dollars putting back into Bitcoin because they expect Powell and the Fed to take action and cut rates again, okay, which adds liquidity to the market. Every time we cut rates, it adds liquidity. Bitcoin's going higher. So you want to be in the trade. Guys, not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. For me, I want to be in the trade come the FOMC meeting. I don't want to be getting in the trade on the FOMC meeting date because then you're buying the news. Okay? You want to buy the rumor, sell the news. Here's the rumor. We're going to get a rate cut. I think 90% of the people think we're going to get a rate cut. So is it baked in? It's not baked into stocks right now. Is it baked in? We've seen sell-offs. We saw a sell-off in crypto liquidations over the last week and a half. So it's not really baked in. What's the real baked in value of that rate cut right now? It's not realized in Bitcoin right now. That's why I want to be buy up because I'm looking at 110 right now. Okay. Right? Look, we're watching right here at 110, 500. Okay. And I'm looking at 110 thinking, okay, well, where am I going to be in 5 days? It's Friday. Okay. October 24th. FOMC meeting start on the 28th. So this weekend, I want to be, say tomorrow by Saturday, I want to be in my trades for the FOMC meeting. Why? That gives me Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the day after, okay? So the day after, all the news is absorbed in the market, I'm already in my trade. So would you rather get in your buy-up trade at 109 or 110 if you believe Bitcoin is going to cross 112 today? Or do you want to wait until Monday or Tuesday when Bitcoin's on 111 or 112? Or maybe it's already broken it in anticipation of the rate cut. So this is the behavior. Remember, you're trading the behavior within the 5 days, okay? That's what all we're concerned about is the next 5 days in these leverage trades. Why? Because these expire. These trades will expire in 5 days on 5-bit. So if you enter a trade and you don't do anything, goes against you, you're going to get liquidated, and the exchange is going to liquidate it, okay? But you want to make sure that you cash it. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to your trades, okay? Especially limit orders. Especially if you see it going up and up and it crosses 112 and we get a euphoric stick and we're at 113, 114, 115, go ahead and put a limit order and protect you in case we get a pullback, in case we get a swing back. Because remember, once the news is digested, people will then believe it's baked into the price and then maybe people will take in profits. Remember, where are all the people? Look on the blockchain. Where are all these blocks that we're buying at 105? They're sitting up $5,500 right now in Bitcoin. If it gets to 10,000, if we get to 115, they could easily sell out, walk away with millions. Okay, we're talking about millions and millions of Bitcoin were bought at 105,000. That's why it's a critical level for me that if we break that level and we hold it on a candlestick, especially a daily, then we're going to see the 90s. Okay, we're probably that's just it. But I'm going to be in a sell down. Okay, I'm going to have exposure to that sell-off, okay, so I can trade that behavior as much as we're trading the behavior right now. Let's take a look at where we're at, okay, really quickly. Bitcoin's trading above $110,000, rebounding from key support, obviously, from earlier this week. We talked about that around 108,000, okay, that's what I consider. Ethereum approaches critical resistance level, yes. With potential breakout, I like what's happening in Ethereum right now, okay? XRP trading above $2.39. Well, we know that. It's up now 10 cents from there. because their momentum indicators are signaling weakening bearish pressure. What does that mean? What is weakening bearish pressure? Less people are selling, and there's less people buying shorts. It's another little metric you can use, just like the liquidations, the spot liquidation metric that shows you how many millions are being removed, outflows from ETFs, right? Metric you can use to trade. Another metric you could use to trade, okay, is your bearish sentiment, okay? How can you gauge that bearish signal? Is how many people are buying short trades, how many people are buying sell downs in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple price show signs of stabilization as market momentum steadies after recent volatility. Well, that's what we're talking about, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP are holding above key levels with momentum indicators suggesting fading bearish pressure. When you got fading bearish pressure, that is a transition back to bullish sentiment that's coming. I believe it's coming next week. Bitcoin showing signs of early recovery from its 50-day exponential moving average. That is what's known as the EMA, folks, at 113, okay? So we're looking at that 113. I'm looking at 112 because it's got critical resistance. But if it crosses 113 and breaks back above, okay, you can see those levels I got on the chart on the screen right now that I pay attention to. I shut out all the other noise. I'm looking at that EMA 7, that EMA 8, and that EMA 21, okay? You look at those levels, and then you look at where Bitcoin is, okay? As it moves across 110, it's going to beat back that 7-day exponential moving average. Then it's going to take on that 10-day, and then it's going to take on that 21-day, okay? As it moves above all three of those critical EMAs, that's bullish, okay? Keep that in mind. These are just little tips for you, not financial advice, obviously, that you can use. And I'll put in the newsletter. Subscribe to the newsletter. It's free, okay? Boom, boom. All right. If Bitcoin breaks and closes above the trend line, it could extend a rally toward the 50-day EMA. So the trend line is that 111 and 112. That's what it has to break in order to test that EMA at 50-day moving average, okay? A successful move against this level could extend the gains toward the 78% fibbed retracement level of 115. Don't really think you need to concentrate yourself too much with fibs because it's not a 5-day moving kind of thing. You certainly can if you want to get into the more advanced type of indicators for your trading, if you're doing other things. I really don't pay too much attention to Fibonacci because I trade 5 days. Sometimes I'll look at it on a Sunday to kind of see the week ahead, where we're at, if there's been a big market move. But I really just am not concerned with it because I'm looking at the 5-day window, okay? Relative strength indicator, 45 points upward on the daily chart. It's true, okay? You're looking at MACD is one I also look at. That's your moving average convergence, divergence lines. It's a bullish crossover. It's coming. So everything's pointing to Bitcoin being higher next week. So that's why I'm looking at if Bitcoin closes below 106, okay, that 105,000 zone, okay, it could extend losses toward the October low of 102, okay, and then from there it's 97 or 98, okay. Ethereum, fading bearish momentum in Ethereum, price corrected over 4% last night, okay. Last week. But it's reached its on its daily chart, it reached this resistance level, okay, of 4,200. So we've got to take that out again. All right, we've got to take that out. Its corrections down 5% in the first half of this week, but it's recovered at the time of this morning. Right now, Ether's recovering, trading above $3,800. And let's see exactly what our RSI level is in Ethereum, because it's always a good little indicator. We're at 39.37. So we're going to test 4,000 today, guys. We're at an RSI level on the 4-hour of a 53. So still neutral, still healthy. Okay. So we could get some move here. Remember, we hit an RSI level of 61 on the 21st, and that was at a level of 4,059. So we could easily test that 4,000 level today. Keep that in mind. We are red, of course, on both. We've got a large wick here on the 4-hour from Ethereum, so we are starting to see some selling pressure. We want to hold that 3,800 level, though. That's really where we want to hold. If we test that 3,800 level and fail, we're likely going to drop down to 37 to 3,600 on the 4-hour, and definitely test that. So, that's where that goes. But it's still the same. Again, it's the same trade as last week, guys. Okay, same trade as last week. We are looking at a range of 108,000 and 112, and playing that trading range down. So if we see more red candles come into the market on the 4-hour, then can we implement the sell down? I mean, and if we see more bullish momentum come in, we can immediately enter in our buy ups, okay? And then we can get out. If it tests 112 again in the next 24 hours and fails, you can take your profit and take it out. Remember, minus your fees, okay? You want to make sure that you're always exiting your trades, that you've got your fees, paid for, okay? So whether it's 1.5% or depending on what trade value you're using, up to 3.5% fees at higher leverage trades, you want to make sure that you at least have, if you're making a call to get out of a trade, you want to at least make sure you're making double your fees, okay, when you exit the trade. If you just want to get out of it because you think the market is, it's going to keep going lower or keep going higher and you're in a sell down and you just want to capture your 5% and get out, then that's how you want to execute it. So we're in that zone again, 108 to 112. We haven't broken 112. That's a critical zone. Then we can take out 115. So we want to look at today's trade as really within this zone. Okay, you want to buy. And again, today, tomorrow, you want to set it up for next week, the FOMC meeting, guys. You want to set that move up. Big shout out to Maya. Maya up $16,000 during the furlough. Government employee. Here in the DC area, government employee, never been in crypto before. Okay, never traded crypto. Certainly had bought crypto before on her phone, but had never traded it, leverage or anything like that, just spot buying. And was furloughed about 10 days ago, and in 10 days. We were recommended from someone else who follows here and as a newsletter subscriber. She followed the newsletter, sent me a message, set her up a 5-bit, set her up on that, how to get situated, kind of walk through a little bit of it. Very simple trade. You know what I mean? Very simple. We've been in this zone now for 2 weeks. It's been the same. We haven't really had breakout. We already had that over 2 weeks ago of the massive sell down from 126 all the way down to 105. We've already had all that. So it's been a pretty consistent continuation pattern. And she has traded it now for $16,000 worth of profit in 10 days. That is absolutely sick and crazy. And that's what you can do. Okay. Very simple trades. Okay. And take it and build on them. And as you do your trades, guys, you can increase. There's kind of two camps in it, right? And I've been in both camps because I remember starting out years ago in crypto. In different communities and in different of groups, whether it be on Discord or whether it be a chat Reddit or chat groups or whatever like that, or you're part of the whole Robinhood craze or whatever you're a part of. There's the camp that puts $100 or $500, whatever, into the exchange, and then they keep taking their profits out, and then they keep trading that $100 or $500, whatever it is. Remember, you only need to have 5 USDT to actually enter a trade on 5-bit. So it's like the lowest barrier of entry of anyone I'm familiar with. So you just transfer $25 of Bitcoin over and start trading, and then you've got a little bit of small trades, okay, to get your feet wet. But then there's the other camp that takes the 100 and they mean, okay, so they had $500, They made $250 on the trade, so now they have $750. So then they take the $750 and they enter a trade, and then that trade makes $300. And so then they're over $1,000, and they start leveraging up. They start buying. Their trades start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then obviously their returns are bigger, right? Because they're actually having more Bitcoin borrowed from the exchange into that trade. All right, and so that's there's two camps, and you got to figure out which one you're more comfortable with. I recommend people, again, not financial advice, just for educational purposes in terms of techniques and strategies. I recommend people start with a level of money they're like comfortable with losing. So I got to talk to people who are do prop bets on FanDuel and all that kind of stuff, and bet 360, all that stuff. It's like it's the same kind of thing. You're willing to risk all that money if that player doesn't perform. You're willing to risk all that and all that bet that Bitcoin's going to go higher or lower on Bybit. That's your mentality, okay? And then take your profits, move your profits off, put them back in savings, put them back wherever you want. Use them to buy it Bitcoin long or Ethereum long. Put them in your cold wallet, and then keep trading. That's a realistic way to start. That's conservative. The other more like aggressive way is to put all of it, win it, take all the winnings, put it back in another bet, win it, put all of it, you know what I mean? And so, that tends to be a lot faster, for people. So it does appeal to some people, and then other people are more conservative like I am in terms of, especially if somebody's new. 110, 400 right now. 110, 400 range in Bitcoin right now. So hit that Bybit trading exchange, QR code, go right to Bybit, register with your email, and take a look at that. Take a look at it. Again, 5 USDT minimum to enter, to put money on the Bybit exchange that you can trade, and give it a shot. Give it a shot. And for a cup of coffee, right? Like basically for a cup of coffee, you can kind of see what it's all about. And then, it gets fun. And you know what? And it's like, but you got to pay attention, because it's just like any other vehicle. The market's here every day, 24 hours, 7 days a week, guys. And so it's not like you take a break on the weekend when the stock market's closed down on Friday and everything comes back and everything Monday morning matters. The market from overseas to here, it can swing on a dime. So you want to make sure that if you are in profit within your 5-day window of trading, you want to put limit orders. Okay, you want to do that. Okay, and we'll talk about that. If you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me. And you could start out at 5x, grow into 10x, and then I tell people, I get messages all the time. I know people who trade at 50x. They're crazy, but they've been doing this for a little bit, and unless, for me, again, not financial advice, but for me, unless the market is in a capitulation, we're in a major FUD or a major, like the market, it's just you're watching Bitcoin go up 1,000, like it's just going. That is the only time I even consider going 50x or more, is into a bullish, and I prefer to do it in a bullish FOMO market than I do necessarily a sell down. But that's just me. Okay, I'm not giving you financial advice on that at all. But I think it's just easy to learn and to trade working class families when you don't have a lot of capital, but you want to get into crypto to trade, at 5x or 10x. And Bybit is a great functional exchange. So you can see it right there. It's all right there. It's easy. It doesn't have all the noise and all that stuff on so many other exchanges out there. With perpetuals and like, all pairs and all that stuff. I think for people new to crypto, it's just overwhelming, and it ends up driving them away, more or less, especially if somehow the market went against them and then they never come back because they just fundamentally didn't have somebody or a channel or a community or a newsletter or a Discord or whatever, kind of like walking them through it to understand everything. All right, guys, that was it. Quick Friday. Again, not a big long one because we're in the same zone. It's the same trade. We're just replicating the trade. Rinse and repeat. I know a lot of you guys are all up. Congratulations to Maya. Congratulations to Maya. I know Mike is way up. I know Crypto King 47 is way up. Crazy. But even when the market's doom and gloom, like you've kind of felt like really over the whole month really of October, people are making winning trades because that's what the institutions are doing. The institutions are trading every single day, every hour. Okay, they are. And so again, you just have to have that little mentality a little bit about, okay, set some time aside, at the end of your week or in the evening after the kids, you put the kids to bed or whatever, or you're sitting. I know people like you're sitting at soccer practice, right? And you're sitting like we've all been there. You're sitting in the parking lot because you're not going to drive all the way home and then have to come all the way back. Practice is only like an hour, and you're sitting there in the car in the parking lot, right there on your phone, 5-bit. You can be doing some trading. I know people that do that. And so there's just it's such you can do it. I know people that have closed. Trust me, I know people who have closed out winning trades in a movie theater. Okay, while they're at the movies because the market out of nowhere in the evening on a Friday or Saturday night, the market went up 4%. And they had a little alert on their phone. And so I hear all the stories. They're just great. You know what I mean? But just, you know what? Again, focus on the crypto strategic reserve 5. Focus on learning Bitcoin and Ethereum first. And then obviously XRP and Cardano are relatively, let's be honest, they're inexpensive cryptos if you want to buy some cryptos long. You know what I mean? One's under $1 and one's under $3, right? Okay. And they're part of this. They're part of this story. They're going to be part of the crypto story for years to come. Where Solana is at 191, Ethereum is now like just under 4,000. Bitcoin, of course, is at 110,000. So you got a wide, market birth, right, of just valuations of these cryptos, of these coins. Now, a number one question I got is why is that? And a lot of it has to do with supply. Okay, the token supply dictates how many tokens there are in circulation. There, and a lot of times, like Cardano and XRP have way more tokens available than other projects, and so think supply and demand, right? Okay, and what's going to happen? We know what's going to happen with Bitcoin come 2030-ish, okay, with no more mined Bitcoin, right? And so then it all becomes a true supply story. It's who's holding all the Bitcoin. Why do you think all these major guys that you see on YouTube being interviewed or you see on CNBC or maybe sometimes on Bloomberg, why are they accumulating large swaths of Bitcoin? And now Ethereum, Tom Lee. Google Tom Lee. Or go on YouTube and just do Tom Lee. Tons of videos out there. ETF Treasury, right? ETF, again, he's that guy, okay, for ETF, as opposed to Saylor and one of the other guys that are like Bitcoin, right? Why are they doing that? Because they know the next decade supply is going to be shrunk. So you got to have your Bitcoin, okay? And so that's the play. Okay, that's your long-term. That's the only long-term thing I think about is what's the supply? How does it impact the supply long-term? Because if you're going to hodl Bitcoin, you're not trading Bitcoin. You're just hodling it. You're buying it and you're hodling it. You're holding on to it on Coinbase or wherever you're holding on to it in your wallet or whatever. That's what you want to be concerned about. Not really the price of Bitcoin today because you're not spending it. You're not using it, right? You're holding on to it for a future. And so you don't necessarily need to be too concerned with these 10% gyrations in the market. We've recovered from every single one of them. Every single one of them we've recovered from. Just think of it like that. And now sometimes we recovered faster. Okay. Sometimes bear markets went sideways for a longer period of time. But the last time we went sideways, it was for half as long. Okay. So just think about that. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Congratulations, Maya. Awesome for you and your family, especially during this furlough period. I'm obviously not getting a check cut from the government like you deserve. All of that stuff. I'm happy for you, happy for your family. And this is what we're about. We're about working with smaller traders, working class families, People are in the same boat that I've been in. Have kids, want to introduce crypto to their kids. How can they get their kids involved a little bit of understanding crypto? Because it's not like they're teaching crypto in high school yet, right? That's the next decade. How will you know when crypto is really adopted and relevant? Really, is we are teaching it in our schools to our children. Okay, right? And without fear, right? And says because a lot of times people don't want we don't even teach our kids how to balance a checkbook. We don't even teach our kids finance in high school. We send them off to college, and then it's oh, they're getting credit cards in the mail. Oh, they're getting what's this Bitcoin 401k? Well, they're getting all inundated with all the stuff that they were never educated to even understand. How to do credit, right? How to manage credit, how to balance a checkbook, how to do all this stuff, understand finances, understand investments, making people understand. If you start investing at 18 years old, where do you think you'll be at retirement age? Most people wait until their 30s to even consider putting money into a 401k from their employer, even when it's matching, right? 50% match, old school way. The kids in their 20s and 30s don't even think about it. You don't think about it until you start a family. You don't think about it until you buy a house, right? Well, less people are buying houses. Okay? Less people, really are saving. What's our savings rate in America compared to Japan? Right? What's our savings compared to people in Europe? We're not savers. Okay? We are a debtor nation. Our nation is in debt, and us as individuals, we are in debt. Everything is on credit. Okay? And so if that bubble ever bursts, people look at gold, look at crypto. Okay? All right, guys. Hope everybody has a wonderful and safe weekend. We'll catch back up on Monday. Probably going to try and do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way into the FOMC meeting, so we can see these trades, because I think we're going to get a lot of volatility in terms of the trading. I think we're going to go higher. Just my point of view, but we're going to see some selling on the way up. Okay. But ultimately, I think we're going to go higher. Ultimately, I think we're going to get a rate cut, and it should influence this market. It's just a matter of whether or not that breaks and whether or not we can break that 112 to take out that $115,000 level. All right, guys, appreciate you.